Hello and welcome to Life in the Mind, a neurodivergent podcast by neurodivergent people. I'm Murray Spear, and sadly, my usual co-host, mind owner? No, Joy Amy Wigman is not able to be here today. So we have, as a magical special co-host, our producer.
Hi. I thought you were going to introduce me, but that's all right. You threw to me. No, I'm good.
Paul
Paul Avery. Yes, very good. That is my name, Paul Avery. I'm here today. I'm not. I do podcasts other than this one, like as in.
You do.
I'm more experienced than I'm coming across.
no, it's because so we did immediate neurodivergent moments. We did chat about how we were going to do this because it is slightly out of the norm.
Yeah,
and I then did something completely different.
Well, I think we've nailed that. I thought that was good.
We got it.
We're
it's
better than
sorted.
some podcasts, not as pro as others,
Yeah,
so that's fine.
And yes, today is Life in the Mind of Christine. Hello, Christine.
Hi,
I'd like to
Murray.
introduce
Hi, Paul.
yourself
Hello.
a wee bit.
Yeah, so Christine Searl, and I have a diagnosis of ADHD. I'll put that out there as the offset, so that's where my neurodivergence lies. So I'm really pleased to be here today and have a chat with you guys. I know you previously, so I'm going to put that out there as well because we work together. So let's just make sure that everybody's got a clear slate, nothing hidden.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, it's one of those things, isn't it? When you do know people, I've listened back to some of the other episodes where it's like, one of us knows this person really well, and we refer to things like, other people wouldn't know the backstory to that. Like, what?
But
What?
I find it interesting because although we know each other, obviously we don't know
No.
each other's
No.
stories.
We know each
from
other in
that
a
perspective.
professional capacity.
Absolutely, and working
Yeah.
together as well. There's always that professional persona, and everybody has that, where everyone puts that sort of work face on, and that work hat on, as it were. So so it's definitely, you don't know me personally, maybe as well as maybe some of my friends do. So,
And in this little room, we're trying to be as masks off as possible.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And but without no random digressions already like
Can
splitting
I
in my
ask the
brain.
first question?
Let's jump straight in.
We have a question. There's a question we always ask,
Yeah.
and when we're big and famous, it will be a T-shirt. That's what I think.
you love the idea of this, but I think it's a good idea.
Oh, it'd be a good T-shirt.
Kind
What?
of scared.
So the question is, what is
Amazing
your
day.
relationship to neurodivergence? So obviously you've talked about your ADHD diagnosis, but I don't know if you want to expand on that or if there's other areas of your life where...
Yeah, so neurodivergence is in my work area of life because I've worked in adult health and social care. I've worked with lots of charities, worked with lots of people who are neurodivergent. I have personal experience as well. So I've been an unpaid carer for somebody in my family who also has a diagnosis of ADHD as well. And and I kind of look back and there's certain elements of sort of people's behaviour in my family, and I can see certain elements, and there wasn't any diagnosis for them, but then thinking about when they were children where potentially that's now being picked up for young people, they wouldn't have been seen in that way. So I can there's quite a sort of there's quite a connected way of my life with regards to neurodivergence that I maybe hadn't realised until recently, that's kind of influenced lots of decisions I've made, not just personally, but career-wise as well.
Yeah,
I think there's a little bit of birds of a feather, sort of,
yes,
I think. And also
Yeah.
there's huge elements of it being
genetic,
and,
so
Definitely.
the family, and that other thing of. Actually, I mean, that leads us on to it. How old were you when you discovered your neurodivergence? Because,
So it was last year. Not discovered my neurodivergence. So that was when I was formally diagnosed.
Yeah.
But it was about a year before that I kind of was like, okay, maybe I need to think about this. There's certain things happening in my life right now that are making me realise I'm struggling to cope with certain things, or I'm not able to do certain tasks, and it's kind of never really crossed my mind before, even though there is neurodivergence and ADHD in my family and genetically linked to me, that I kind of was like, okay. And it's only when my life suddenly stopped through health and I was able to have that space, because I think one of the things with my life is it was always really constantly busy, always something to do. And as someone with ADHD, I thrive off
So
that.
you didn't spot the ADHD then.
Exactly. And that's the thing, my life, it's going sort of thinking back, obviously having that time to reflect, recovering from an operation. I was able to see times in my life and go, oh, that makes so much sense now.
Yeah.
Oh, I can really be kind to myself about that, because actually that was something that I had very little control over. And just that kindness that I was able to give myself, understanding more. My husband's reaction was absolutely hilarious. It was the best reaction that I have ever had when I talked to somebody about the fact that I have ADHD or thought I had ADHD. Yeah. And I spoke to him and I sort of said, these are some of the challenges. I've noticed this, etc. And he looked at me and he literally, eyebrows went up, and he looked at me as if to say, what? And you've only just figured it out?
Nice.
And we just sat there laughing about it, because it was, he knows me from an external perspective.
Yeah.
I only really know me from my own internal thoughts and processes, and, and I don't know how other people see me.
Yeah.
That's really difficult to predict, isn't it? Unless they tell you.
Yeah.
And then there's always that thing, well, can we trust what they say when, because they wouldn't want to hurt me or be unkind. But his reaction was priceless. It was really, really good. And as I said, we just sat there kind of laughing about it.
And that's really beautiful that it was also your husband that was kind of, because it was something that you were realising, you're going through this process of stuff. And there's often a kind of grief in that process of looking backwards and stuff. But because your husband was like, yeah, I already knew this, you immediately had this validation of someone who loves you being like, yeah, I'd work this out and I love you anyway.
Yeah,
and I'm with you anyway.
Absolutely.
Which is a lovely, you immediately know your person is on side.
Absolutely.
You have a companion in this, which is
definitely.
beautiful.
And it is. And we always joke as well that, I only married you because you make me feel normal. And I know we don't like to use that word normal, because actually everybody is so different.
Yeah.
But, he is quirky and interesting himself. And I feel that I'm quirky. I feel that I don't fit that. I'm not the normal grey. And to actually find somebody who does accept me for exactly who I am. And he did before the diagnosis. And then even after the diagnosis, he's like, it doesn't change anything for us as a couple, which is fantastic.
How did that kind of period of discovery and then the diagnosis change your relationship with yourself, kind of leading on from that?
Yeah, so the main thing is the kindness that I give myself now with my internal thinking. Because before diagnosis so it's not just the diagnosis. The diagnosis is kind of like the end of the process in the sense of the medical teams, etc. It's that journey that leads to that I kind of really sort of did that self-discovery, tried to reflect a lot on situations in my past. But it is that kindness now when I feel dysregulated and I feel like I'm overwhelmed, and my favorite word was I'm stressed. That used to be my favorite word, whereas now I go, actually, I really just can't cope with this situation because I've got this, and this happening around me. I can't take anymore. I can't take on anymore. I need to step back from this so that I can just do some self-preservation. So it's that kindness that I give myself now with that thinking. Yeah. I don't go, oh, you can't cope. Yes. Oh, you're not doing this right. Yeah. Those kind of harsh critical words. It switches from like you being the problem to just like, this is something I can't manage in the same way, or I have got to a point where I am overwhelmed by these things because I find them a bit harder. Yeah,
kind of thing.
definitely.
And it sounds like you can work through the little bits as well and like break it down.
Yeah, and that's where the self-reflection kind of comes in, because I've always felt like I'm very much a self-reflective person. It used to be I overanalyze things, so that's how I used to see it. Oh, I overanalyze everything. I'm thinking too much about things and everything else. But actually, it's just how my brain works. I notice everything and observe very little, because actually sometimes you need that space to do that observation, if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Oh God, yeah, something you were saying earlier about the attention deficit part of
terrible name
ADHD. In terms of what were you saying?
Well, it's not really an attention deficit. It's an attention. It's too much attention.
Yeah,
I'm attentioning
absolutely.
to everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
I had a really interesting sort of I don't know. Talking on the kindness thing, about a month ago, spent the weekend with some friends of ours, and they've got 4 kids, and their youngest has been diagnosed with ADHD. And just a hilarious little lad, and they're doing a great job with him. But there was one point where his mum was saying, "Oh, he's I've been told that if he learns to ride a bike, it will help him with his reading."
Okay.
And I was a bit like, I'm not sure causality and all that stuff. But I just suddenly felt really defensive of him. It just sort of reminded me of everything from when I was a kid and failing my cycling proficiency test and not being able to read and not knowing why. And it actually made me think, actually, do you know what? If I look at if every time I think I'm mean to myself, I think of my friend's little lad, would I be mean to him about this? No, I wouldn't. I'd be kind and caring and defend him and protect his right to not enjoy reading. That's fine. Or being disorganised or having a crazy moment. And I just actually, if I start remembering 7-year-old Paul, I wouldn't be horrible to. And that's a sort of psychological thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
But I
it's
think
Thinking,
there's a
would
sort
you
of.
say this to someone else? This self-talk. Would you actually be talking like this to like you say, like a child or just another person? It's like, well, if you wouldn't, why are you doing it to yourself?
Yeah.
But is it so easy to fall into?
It is, and I think it's because you struggle with things, and whether it be a practical task, whether it be that emotional regulation, or whether it be just understanding what on earth is happening around you, because there's so much going on and you're not really quite reading all the signals, or you're
What
reading
you're being
everything all at
asked
once, and
and,
it's your processing's really challenging. But we're being told we should be able to do that. So society and people in society who maybe don't understand some of the challenges that we face are telling us that we should be able to do it. And I think it's just thinking about sort of like, body image as an example. With body image, society's told us we should look a certain way and we should, have our hair done a certain way, our makeup done a certain way, and dictates. The similar principle happens with thinking processes and tasks and physical things that we do, emotional things that we do, that we should love a certain way, or we should behave a certain way, or we should, speak to people a certain way. But actually, that's a real challenge. Those things can be, for some people, such a challenge for them to do.
And there's not necessarily a logical reason behind those shoulds either. It doesn't actually, a lot of them are a flawed logic path that's just been thrown in as a social rule by some arbitrary measure at some point. It's like, I'm going to write a book on etiquette. It's then going to define the lives of thousands of people in a country and create so many issues because I wanted to create a barrier between these classes type of thing, which is Edwardian England. Anyway.
But it's hard. I think the world is changing gradually, I think. And I think growing up when I was a kid in the 80s.
Yeah, 80s child here as well.
If you were the only kids we knew who had ADHD were like off the wall,
They were classed as the naughty kids.
Yeah.
They were the children that disrupted classes. They were the children that absconded from the garden and went off wandering around the streets and things like that. So they were seen as the naughty children. And I think it's definitely shifting where someone with neurodivergence isn't seen as the problem child. But I think there's still a long way to go with regards to that acceptance of difference.
Well, it was one of the things I was talking, we were talking before, me and Paul and I, autism brain, shush. We were talking before we met up today, before we came to record.
These are all correct. You said all these sentences. All these sentences have been fine. Eddie, if you can just splice that together into one.
I think there's a song in there. If you remix it into autism brain corrections rap about like the difference between even autism and ADHD as accepted diagnoses. There's a massive surge in people looking into and looking for diagnosis or just kind of learning more about both of those as these kind of two flagship neurodivergencies. And ADHD is often seen as this one to be like, well, the ADHD kid's the fun kid. They're the ones who's, they're great at parties. Yeah, they can never turn up on time, but the ADHD kid's great fun. And then it's like, but the autistic kid's the pariah because they can't do social things. It's like, no, this is not, you haven't understood either of these, really.
That's
Like,
it. But it's the same with when like the ADHD. It's also the thing with the sort of ADHD. A bit loud. All right.
Yes. Yeah, that's too much.
You're a bit much.
And you don't get invited to things because
you can be
too much for people, and you can come across as that. And it's, my family, that's just Christine. And it's like, well, actually, yes, that is Christine, but you don't dismiss it. There's a reason that Christine might be a little bit hyper today. It might be because she's actually really struggling with the social situation, and she's actually masking. If she can hold court, which is what I do in social situations, I can hold court. If I can keep everybody's attention on me, then I'm controlling the situation. So then I'm
Less
louder, I'm more gregarious. I was known as the happy goth in my circle.
Nice.
That's just because it was the way I was able to deal with those social situations.
Whereas I know that I definitely go more buzzy and all over the place just before I crash. For me, it's when the combination brain it's got to a point where I'm about to go poof, and I get into this hyperverbal, non-stop talking, really loud. It's like ADHD brain just like, and autism brain's just. I
think that what you're saying about the public sort of persona that people are, they're fun, they're having fun. And you're like, you've no idea how many plates I'm keeping spinning in my head. If I shut up, then my brain's going off down. You're having a conversation over here. I've had that conversation twice. I'm 10 steps ahead of you. In a minute, I'm going to say something real weird.
Understand it. You're just going to laugh because you think it's hilarious. But actually, it's because we are 10 steps ahead, and we have run through this conversation probably 20 times in the 3 minutes we've been talking, because our brains have gone so fast.
Yes.
And also just because we just need the conversation to stop sometimes, and we just say random stuff, and then they're back in control.
Yeah, and it's that giving the space to process it. Kind of sometimes you'll skip a record just so that brain can be like, it's going to breathe, okay, cool, now back in, kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's really tiring though.
Yes,
it's really, really tiring. So social, like I say to my husband, I'm so peopled out, and there's only so much I can actually do. But family don't, and friends and people at work potentially, when you get those social invites, don't necessarily always understand that it is that self-preservation sometimes when you have to say no, because you just need to reserve your energy levels.
Yeah.
And if you're reserving those energy levels, it's for a reason. If you can't, you can't do it.
And it's something the world needs to be better at. Just in general, we need to have it built into our society more, giving ourselves and others space to look after our own energy and plan that in kind of in advance and into our day-to-day lives. And so actually it's something that, fascinatingly, we can lead the way on a bit of going like, so we now have a diagnosis that gives us a bit of space to do that. And so we can, if like, for example, workplaces adjust to fit neurodivergent needs of kind of like, I need to plan things in this way. I need to have that capacity, that space to be able to process and manage my energy, then actually that's just bringing the bar up for everyone. Because then if that's more accepted, then everybody's going to be able to do that more. And so everybody's efficiency is going to go up and less people are going to get burnt out. We're going to have less of a mental health crisis that's going on, like epidemic.
Definitely.
And
I think
it's massive.
I think I think it comes back to being kind to yourself. I think especially within a family, like I've got a very neurospicy family. And 4 kids who have various, and I'm quite good at looking at them and going, hey, lovely, do you think you want to go and have 20 minutes? It's fine. You don't have to join in with this. And it's actually only like in the last, this year really, where I've started to go, do you know what? I've been around you and my parents and for like a long time now. If I don't go and get 20 minutes of headspace, I'm going to be a grumpy what's it, and then you're all going to be asking why I'm so grumpy, and I can't really just blame you for being here. And it's taken a while to sort of say to my kids, yeah, I'm the dad, but also I just need that space to.
You are also a human being.
Yeah.
Thing. It's that going, actually, yeah, I am, but I'm not magic. I don't know everything, and I've still got all my own needs, and I think that's such a good thing to. It's so easy to.
It's really difficult to navigate, though. It is very, very difficult to navigate. It's very difficult sometimes to find the right words because you're physically feeling a certain way, or you're emotionally feeling a certain way, and then being able to try and find the words and explain it. And it's putting yourself in a very vulnerable position, being able to say, actually, I'm not coping with this, because it can be used against you.
Oh, gotcha. Well, one of the things I was thinking when we were talking about like that surge in people learning more and stuff is that we really have. There's been a lot of progress, but still, especially between those ADHD and the autism. ADHD is like, oh, it's fun, cool. Autism is this weird kind of prior thing. Is even just on the bus on the way to record today, I heard someone call his friend an autistic C word.
Okay.
Not cow. Fill in the blanks yourself, kind of thing. And I heard it used fully as an insult.
Yeah.
And I was just sitting there going, do I want to get into this? No, I've got to retain my own energy. But at the same time, that's, And it's so prevalent still. And that's one of the reasons it makes it so hard to, like you say, it's so hard.
Yeah, it is. And I think the thing is that as human beings, we're biologically set up to look for difference, and it's a safety mechanism. It's that animal sort of instinct. Look for difference, look for those things that are out of the ordinary, so that we can be prepared for them and we can safeguard ourselves. But unfortunately, in society's little clique groups that happen with it, the difference means that you become ostracized, but also it's then becomes the sort of everyday words that are used against people. And it's, and I think this is the thing, because I felt so different growing up, and internally it was all internal. I got to the point where I was like, well, I might as well look different, hence my goth days, hence kind of like standing out from the crowd, because it made me sort of have a focus other than how I felt inside. And other people would see that I looked different, and yes, I would get abuse for being a goth when I was growing up as a teen, but at least I wasn't getting abuse for something else.
It deflects it slightly.
Well, I'm kind of hopeful for the future because my kids are so different. Like when it was the 90s, like you're a goth, you do this, you're this, you do that. You have to behave, you have to be like this. And it just doesn't seem to be the same for my kids. It's kind of like, oh yeah, that's how they are. It's just them. They're them. And they'll be like, they'll talk about autism or, and it's almost the same, I think, for them as sort of, they identify as being gay, being non-binary and autistic. And that's fine. That's them. That's who they are. Cool. And we make allowances for all those things, and we roll with it. And I feel hopeful that we are raising a generation
definitely moving into
better than than ourselves.
And I think we're talking about it as our generation, and then hopefully when that generation then grow up, because there is that openness about how somebody identifies, and that recognition that you should be speaking to that person about how they identify, not necessarily how you think they should identify, but how they actually identify themselves. And that hopefully then by the time they start having kids, it'll be much, much more integrated into the day-to-day conversations, and the acceptance is there. But I think, unfortunately, humans do identify difference, and they will look for that. And it's just one of those things, and it's really big, actually, me being on this show today, to come out to whoever's going to listen, because it is coming out. I've told family, I tell my work colleagues, about my new diagnosis, because it is new and I'm still learning to accept it and learn about it and learn about how it affects me. But it is like a coming out, and it shouldn't be.
No.
It should be that actually Christine is Christine who identifies as having ADHD, has a diagnosis, and I shouldn't have to come out.
No.
It should just be a normal everyday conversation that I can have with people and not have it be a really big thing like it is at the moment.
I really want to dive down into that. We could do another 20 minutes, but we're sort of coming to the end of our time.
Yeah, we are. And I think it's one of those things, really important things to kind of be like, we're moving towards a space, but it's good to be aware that we're still in that growing space.
Yes.
Which is one of the reasons one of the podcasts like this is so important. but
that was perfect. Well done.
In terms of
producer perspective, I'm really happy with that, Murray.
So thank you for actually coming on and talking about it, because the more we talk about our lived experience and we are out there going blah, 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 and doing that, going through that process of coming out. And it's interesting to use in that way because, of course, coming out is associated with sexuality, which has had a similar journey. It's still in a difficult place, but it is so much more normalized now than even when I was growing up. And so hopefully we're going to be able to move, we're going to be moving in the same space as that. We're going to be back with Christine for our next episode, talking about hoarding. So stay tuned for that, or pick up the podcast, pick up a podcast, alliteration.
Follow us on all the socials.
Follow and do all those things.
And comment.
Yeah, there's a thingy in there.
Like, subscribe, all those things would be really helpful.
But brilliant. Thank you, Christine. And we will talk to you again soon.
Excellent.
That's all we have time for this week, folks. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. Follow us on Instagram at Life in the Mind. Our other socials are linked in the bio. Bye.